Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. In today's video, we're going to be making a personalized doormat using your vinyl cutting machine and a couple other supplies. So our doormat is getting a little bit old, a little bit dingy. We've had it for, I want to say at least like 4, maybe even 5 years, maybe even longer. And back then I used a different method. I used just an oil-based outdoor paint, and that's all I did. And obviously it lasted great, but I have switched over to like a newer method, you know, just making it for people. But I haven't made any for myself, so I want to be able to show you guys that today and show you some tips and tricks and things that'll make it easier on you and things that aren't going to give you so much of a headache, because doormats, I know they can be a little bit of a headache because you might not be able to get the vinyl to stick, so you can do your stencil and all the things, and I'm just going to show you that method today so you can make them. You know, they're a great money maker, so if you want to sell them, they're great to give for gifts, friends and family, or just even make for yourself. So let's go ahead and get on into this video, and we're going to head to Walmart today. I'm going to take you along with me and show you the supplies I purchased for this, and then we'll come back home and make it. And we have some really bad weather that's supposedly coming today, and they're like definitely predicting tornado warnings, definitely predicting winds and high rain. But it's looking a little dark outside, so hopefully we don't get caught up in it. But regardless, we're gonna go and we're gonna get the supplies for our mat and kind of do a little bit of a front porch reset. I'm gonna wash the mat underneath the Coir mat. I'm going to get some flowers, and we're just gonna kind of spruce up the little front porch area. And the first step is to make the mat. So let's go ahead and head to Walmart and get the supplies we need. Here's our old doormat. As you see here, it's still holding up, but it's definitely old and faded. So it's definitely time for a new one. So we're just gonna maybe put this one on the back porch or something. And here's our extremely dirty little mat underneath it. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna wash this. I'm probably gonna go put some, saying I am going to kind of refresh this, wash it, maybe put some Dawn on it, scrub it in, and then use the hose out here to clean it. So I'm gonna do that first so it can be drying while we go to the store. So that didn't do too much. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take it in now that I've got like the bulk of the mud cleaned off of it, and I'm gonna go wash it in the washing machine. So let's go ahead and throw that in. Frizzy my hair is getting from this humidity. So I just got done at Walmart, and those doormats only rang up for $5.97. Both of them did. So go head to your local Walmart. Even though they say they're $11.97, they're only ringing up as $5.97, at least here. I wish I would have bought all of them if I would have known that, but I just wanted to mention that. Go ahead and head to the local Walmart and save a couple dollars on some mats, because at first I was like, dang, they've gone up, because they used to be only $9 and they were $12, so they actually ring up as $5.97. So now we're gonna head home. This weather is looking like it's getting a little sketchy. I got emails from one of my daughter's schools saying that we need to pick up our kids early, or they're not going to allow them to leave the school if there's a tornado warning. So we definitely need to make sure that we get one of my daughters early, and then we might get caught in the school pickup line with the other one, because that is literally right when the storms are supposed to be starting, is during pickup time. So I'm trying to figure out all of that, but we'll at least go home and get started with what we can, and then we'll figure the rest out later. Alright, so I'm here in StarCraft Create, which is for the StarCraft Solo vinyl cutting machine, but just know that what I'm doing today, you can duplicate it regardless of whatever vinyl cutting machine you have, whether it be Silhouette or Cricut. All you have to do is just duplicate what I'm doing. All these tools you'll have in your software as well. So the Solo is perfect for today's project because it cuts 16 inches wide by however high you want it to be, and the mat is right at 18 inches, so the 16 is going to be perfect for this project. So that is what I'm going to be doing. So the first thing we want to do is create a template for our doormat. So what we're going to do is go over to the left-hand corner and create a rectangle. So I want to go ahead and change the size of this to 18 being the height by 30 being the width. So this is our exact doormat and how big it's going to be. So I'm going to go over here and make it look a little bit more realistic. We're going to change the color here. All right, that's pretty close. So the next thing we're going to do, I'm going to zoom out a little bit because we're kind of close. So I'm going to hold down Alt and I'm just going to duplicate this rectangle because we're going to make kind of like a border inside of our mat. So what I'm going to do here is change the fill color to none, and then I'm going to have a stroke line with the pen color, and then we are going to make it a little bit thicker. Let's see how thick we want it to be. Okay, so next I'm gonna just change the size down a little bit. We know that we can only go 16 inches high, so I'm gonna make it about 15. And it goes to 25 as the width, which is perfect. So that will be kind of in the middle of our mat here. So the next thing that we wanna do is make our name that goes inside of here. So I'm gonna go get my text tool and I'm gonna put my last name, which is Shaw. And we are going to get this a little bit bigger. I'm going to change the color here on the color panel to black. Well, actually, I'm going to go back and I'm going to change it to red because I'll show you why in a minute. Okay, so right now I'm going to go ahead and get it about the size that I want it. And when you're wanting to adjust the height of your name and you want to keep the proportions, you hold down Shift and then you click this arrow and you just drag it. Okay, so now I want to center it in the middle of my rectangle. So I'm going to select the name, hold down Shift, and I'm going to click the top of my rectangle. And I'm going to go over here to the sizing panel. Make sure that this over here is set to 2 selection, because if you have it 2 page, it's going to kind of center it to the entire page and not center the 2 objects together. So you want it to be 2 selection. I'm going to center it in the middle, and I'm going to center it in the middle again. And it looks like it was already pretty much centered, so that's great. Okay, so now that we have that, what I want to do is I want to knock out an area of the lines on both sides. So I want it to kind of act like it's popping out of the sides here. So I need to erase this area. So I found that the best way to do, now there's a lot of different ways to erase, but then there might be an easier, more technical way, but I'm just not sure yet. So we're going to just be doing another simple way. So I'm going to go over here to the rectangle panel and I'm going to make 2 rectangles again. Now what you're going to want to do is make them just as big as the areas that are popping out on both sides of the font. So I'm going to go ahead and make those now. Okay, now I'm going to go move my name over. Okay, so now that we have our rectangles where we want them, we want to erase the areas that the rectangles are. So what you're going to do first is I'm going to take these rectangles and I'm just going to kind of move them a little bit over so they're out of the way. Okay, now you're going to go over here to the left-hand corner and you're going to select the knife tool. So what you're going to want to do here is hold down Shift and then you're going to click right before your border here. Hold it down and then drag it over until you get to the other side, so that way it kind of slices it like a knife in the areas you want. So we want to do right where our rectangle is. We're going to slice here, slice here, slice here, and slice here, and it's going to kind of knock out those areas. So I'm going to go ahead and do that now. All right, so now as you see, the red border is showing that it's not connected right here. And then when I highlight this area, it's not connected in any of the spots where our rectangle is. So now I'm going to erase the things that I do not need. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and select the top. And I'm going to select the bottom of the rectangle. And I'm just going to group those together. Okay, so notice here it left the areas that we cut out, so I'm going to delete those as well. Okay, now I'm going to select our name here, and I'm going to change it to black. One other thing we need to do is select our name, go up here to path, and just make sure we union it together, which means it's kind of like allowing the letters to seamlessly be connected, also known as weld or merge or whatever you want to call it. So notice how it has the little area kind of broken out where our name comes in and out. I think it looks really good that way. So now I'm just going to make sure everything is centered. So I'm going to shift, select the top and bottom border, go over here, make sure it's to selection, center it all, and that is done. So now I'm going to group it together. And then we're just going to kind of look and see how it will look on our mat. All right, so that looks pretty good, and I think that is exactly how I want it to be. So we are ready to go ahead and get this cut. I'm going to rotate it and get it set up on my mat and then get the solo set up. One thing I forgot to mention is that you want to make sure your border will be cut on both sides. So what you'll do is select it, go to path, stroke to path, and it will cut the whole border correctly. So I don't know if you can tell, but I was feeling green today. Another perk of the StarCraft Solo, you can change the LED screen to whatever you want. Super cool aspect to having that. So we're gonna be using StarCraft permanent adhesive vinyl, but you can use stencil vinyl, you can use freezer paper, you can use HTV, whatever you want, you can use it. But I'm just gonna be using good old adhesive vinyl. If you haven't seen the Solo, it loads up a little bit different. You have to load it from the front, and you just kind of load it on that way and just get it to where the bottom of it is on the very top. And you just line up the very edge of this vinyl with the edge of your machine. It has like a line here, so it's pretty easy to get centered. And then I'm just gonna lock it down. I'm gonna set my origin point. All you gotta do is move the arrows and just get that pink to the very tip of your vinyl. And then we're gonna go send it to our machine and get this baby cutting. All right, so everything is cut and weeded and done, and it went super fast. And a lot of you have been asking me if I've still been enjoying the StarCraft Solo, and yes, I still use it all the time. I love it. And those of you who have been wondering where I got it, it's from My Craft Source. And remember that anything you get from My Craft Source, I have a 5% off coupon code, always. So I'm gonna link all that down below, but let's go ahead and get this weeded. Okay, now I'm gonna go get some transfer tape and we're gonna go ahead and apply that over the top. I use our tape Clear Choice AT65. That is my favorite transfer tape. I get a lot of questions also on how you apply transfer tape to a large stencil. So lay the transfer tape down first. That is the best thing. And then take your big stencil and start in the middle, kind of fold it a little bit like this, and put it in the center. Plop it down slowly and just lay it out while smoothing. And you won't have any bubbles or any issues. And because I'm sure you know that if you apply a stencil that has a lot of bubbles in it, your vinyl is more than likely gonna have bubbles in it as well. So now I'm gonna take my handy dandy brayer. I get it on Amazon. I love these things. I use my last one so much that it snapped. So I got it at Amazon. I'll link it down below as well. All right, let's head downstairs and get this on our mat. Okay, so here are the things that you're gonna need for this project. So you're gonna need a Coir, I think that's how you say it, a Coir doormat. This one's 18 by 30. You're gonna need a stencil. As you see, we just made this one. We made it with vinyl, but you can use a lot of different things. You can use freezer paper, adhesive vinyl, HTV, stencil vinyl, whatever you have will work. Some painter's tape. I got the thicker painter's tape. You need some kind of something to varnish. So I have a squeegee and a brayer. You need Flexseal or some kind of black paint that'll withstand outdoor use. So we have the black Flexseal and we have a UV protection clear coat spray. And then as well as that, we're gonna use a heat gun, but you can also use a household iron as well. What that's gonna do is help this to stick on this, because if you've ever done doormats before, you're gonna quickly realize that this is very hard to stick. So that's why you need this heat to kind of help it. But that's what you need for this project. Let's go ahead and get started. The next step is to take a tape measure of some sort, and you want to not take the transfer tape off yet. You're going to go ahead and find the center point of the mat. So you want to make sure that all this is straight. So that's what you're going to do right now, is you're going to put it on top and you're just going to measure and line it up best that you can. As you see here, next we're going to go do the hinge method, which is placing painter's tape down the middle and removing the backing paper one side at a time. This ensures that your transfer tape is straight and applies exactly where you want it. Take your squeegee and just straighten that one side down, while then removing your painter's tape, placing it down a little bit more on the side that you just put down, and removing the other side and doing the exact same way. Where you're going to get your heat gun and go over both your transfer tape and your transfer lightly, and then kind of just take your squeegee and go over it lightly. We're going to do this again, but what this is going to do is just make sure that it sticks a little bit while you're taking your transfer tape off. And then I take my transfer tape off slowly. This part is a little bit tedious. You have to go slow and just make sure you're kind of taking your hand and pushing it down as you take the transfer tape off. Okay, this is when you take your heat gun and actually go over the entire transfer. And what this is kind of melting the vinyl a little bit, so it makes it to where it sticks down on your mat. So when you're spraying it, you won't have any bleeds. Here's where you take your Flexseal and you go over your mat. Now you go in a sweeping motion. Make sure you shake your can up really well too. And I went over my mat 2 times. So I did 2 coats. I didn't wait for dry time or anything like that. I just went over it 1 time and then went over it 1 more time and let it dry. So make sure that you wear some kind of respirator or mask or something, because the smell is really strong. So definitely protect yourself and wear a respirator. But yep, that's what I'm doing here, is just kind of going over my mat. I let it dry for about 15 minutes and before I peeled my stencil off. I was really impatient. It wasn't fully dry, but it did peel very well. So I guess it really doesn't matter when you want to peel it, but just know that it does make a mess and it gets all over your hands. But if you're impatient like me, it's okay to go ahead and take the stencil off. This time I did allow it to dry for probably around an hour or 2 hours, and I grabbed my clear coat spray and I just sprayed over my entire mat very well. And what this does is, I guess, just kind of protect it extra, although I think it might even be fine just to leave it the way it is with the Flexseal, but I think this would prolong it even more and give it just like an extra layer of protection. So here is how it looked before we placed the mat. And here is the after. So it definitely turned out so well. I love how crisp the lettering is, and it feels really durable. I'm really excited to see how long it lasts. I'll definitely keep you all updated with it, but I had so much fun making this mat. I hope that you guys also enjoyed this video. Definitely go out and make you some mats as well, and let me know if you do and send me pictures. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't already, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And oh yeah, here is the before my other mat and the one I just made it look so much better. Bye, everyone.